You lost that federal contract and you think it was because a bigger vendor undercut your price. 9 times out of 10, it was something you did before you even got to the price. And nobody at the government is allowed to tell you what. I'm David with DeployReady, and I've spent the last 11 years working inside federal contracting, first as an intelligence professional supporting government missions, and now running a platform that reads solicitations line by line for small businesses. Let me walk you through 5 real reasons small business proposals get thrown out, and I've seen every one of them destroy a bid that should have won. Here's what usually happens. You spent 3 or 4 weeks on a proposal, you price it aggressively, you know you could perform, you hit the submit 2 hours before the deadline. 2 months later, you get an email that says something like, "Thank you for your interest. An award has been made to another offer. Your proposal was found to be non-responsive or not the best value." And that's it. No debrief, no line item, no feedback, no phone call. You go back to your day job convinced that the whole system's rigged. I want to convince you it isn't rigged. It is just really unforgiving in ways nobody explains, and once you know the traps, you stop stepping on them. Over the next 8 minutes, I'm going to walk through the 5 most common reasons a small business proposal gets tossed. None of them are about price. All of them are fixable before you even hit submit. And at the end, I'm going to give you one question to ask in your debrief that most contracting officers will actually answer. The first killer is a boring one, which is why it kills so many proposals. Every federal solicitation includes a section, usually section K, that lists your representations and certifications you're required to acknowledge. These come from the Federal Acquisition Regulation, or the FAR, which is a rulebook for every civilian buyer, federal buyer follows. FAR clauses in the 52.204 series, FAR 52.212-3 for commercial line items. And sometimes the agency-specific rules like the Defense Federal Acquisition Regulation Supplement, or DFARS, clause 252.204-702. That one applies to defense contracts that involve controlled unclassified information, or CUI. Here's what nobody tells you. It isn't enough to have these certifications completed in the Systems for Award Management, or sam.gov. Many requests for proposals, or RFPs, require you explicitly acknowledge them inside your proposal document, sometimes with a signature block, sometimes just by referencing them with a clause number. If you leave that block blank, or if you reference the wrong version of the clause because the RFP incorporated an amendment you didn't read, your proposal is legally non-responsive. It doesn't matter how good the rest of it is, it gets set aside before technical evaluation begins. How you fix it? Before you write a single word of technical volume, do a clause pull. Every clause referenced in section I, every certification in section K, every applicable amendment, cross-reference to your SAM record, anything you can't confirm, ask the contracting officers during the question and answer period. The question is free. Assumptions aren't. Reason 2, unpriced or misaligned CLINs. Reason 2 is one that hurts the most because it feels like you're at fault after the fact. The pricing schedule in a federal RFP is called the contract line item number structure, or the CLIN structure. It looks simple, it's not simple. Here's what happens. The RFP lists base year CLIN 001, option year 1 CLIN 1002, option year 2 CLIN 2001, and so on. Sometimes there are sub-CLINs like 001 alpha alpha for labor and 001 AB for materials. Sometimes there are line items marked not separately priced, or NSP, which are required to include at $0 because they are bundled into another CLIN. The 3 ways this kills you. 1, you leave a CLIN blank because you thought it was optional. It wasn't. Non-responsive. 2, you price a not separately priced item as if it were a standalone deliverable. The government reads this as you not understanding the solicitation, downgraded on understanding. 3, your CLIN totals don't add up to the grand total that you put in your cover letter. The government reads this as a sloppy work, downgraded on management approach. How you fix it? Once your pricing line is final, print the CLIN schedule and manually check every row against your cost model. Sum the columns yourself with a calculator, not with the spreadsheet's auto sum. Half the pricing errors I've caught in solicitation have come from Excel's formulas that broke silently when someone copied them in a row. Reason 3, past performance mismatch. Reason 3 is one of the most consultants get wrong when they advise you. Every federal RFP that has past performance requirement will specifically or specify what counts as relevant past performance. Usually three criteria: similar scope, similar size, similar recency. Sometimes there's a fourth: similar complexity, which is squishier and where people get in trouble. Small businesses submit their 3 best commercial contracts as past performance and think that's enough. It usually isn't. Here's a trap. If the RFP says relevant past performance must be of a similar scope and dollar magnitude to this requirement, and this requirement is $2 million grounds maintenance contract at a federal installation, and your 3 references are a $180,000 commercial landscaping job, a $340,000 HOA contract, and a $95,000 municipal park contract, the evaluator's gonna score you as neutral confidence at best, which under federal source selection rules is worse than some confidence. You can be beat by a competitor with weaker technical work because of stronger past performance. How you fix it? Read the past performance sections 3 times. Highlight every criteria word: similar, recent, relevant, or of like scope. Then before you submit a reference, ask yourself honestly whether that reference clears every criterion. If it doesn't, either don't submit it or submit it with an explanation of how it maps. And if you don't have 3 federal references yet, this is where teaming agreements become powerful. You can borrow past performance from a teaming partner if you structure the agreement correctly. That's a whole separate video. Reason 4, key personnel who don't match. Reason 4 kills more small businesses' bids in professional services and technical contracts than anyone realizes. Most RFPs identify key personnel as a subset of your proposed team who are subject to specific qualification requirements: program manager, technical lead, quality manager, sometimes site supervisor, sometimes cybersecurity lead. The RFP will spell out requirements for each key person: years of experience, specific certification, specific degrees, sometimes clearance level, sometimes citizenship, sometimes as narrow as project management professional certification within the current within the past 3 years. Where you lose is when you propose a person who is close but not exact. 10 years of experience when the RFP wanted 12. A bachelor in a related field when it wanted computer science specifically. An expired project management professional certification or PMP that they intend to renew. Every one of those is a downgrade. 2 of them combined is often disqualified. How you fix it? Before you commit a name to your key personnel section, build a checklist of every stated requirement for that role and put a yes or no next to each one. Any no is a problem. If you have to propose someone with a no, either fix the deficiency before the submission, meaning renew the certification or complete the coursework or find someone else. Don't submit someone who is close. Federal evaluators do not choose close. Reason 5, Section L versus Section M mismatch. Reason 5 is the most technical and the most common on complex proposals. This is the one I personally see the most often when I open a solicitation for a small business. Section L, the federal RFP, tells you what to submit and how. Section M tells the government how it will evaluate what you submitted. In a well-written RFP, these 2 sections mirror each other perfectly. In a poorly written RFP, which is most of them, they don't. Here's a mistake. You read Section L, structure your proposal around what Section L asks for, and never open Section M until you're done. That's backwards. Section M is where you learn what actually matters. If Section M says the technical approach will be evaluated on innovation, and your Section L structure has no dedicated innovation subsection, you have already lost points before your evaluator opens the document. The other version of this mistake is worse. Section L says, provide a management plan. Section M says, management plan will be evaluated on the offer's demonstrated ability to control costs, schedule, and quality risk on projects or similar scope. If your management plan doesn't have 3 subsections labeled cost risk, schedule risk, and quality risk, the evaluator has to hunt for what they were asked to evaluate. They will not hunt, they will score you low. How you fix it? Before you write a word of the technical volume, print section L and section M side by side. Create a mapping table. Every evaluation criterion is in section M gets a row. Every submission requirement in section L gets a column. Make sure every M criterion has at least one L requirement that will address it. And structure your proposal so the evaluator finds each criterion exactly where they expect it. This is 90 minutes of work up front that saves you from an unacceptable rating on technical. Bonus. If you lose a federal contract, you have the right to request a debrief. Most small businesses either skip the debrief or ask the wrong questions. Do not ask why did we lose. They can answer that directly or they won't. Do ask this. Can you walk me through the strengths or weaknesses, deficiencies, and significant weaknesses assigned to our proposal under each evaluation factor? Those 4 words, strength, weaknesses, deficiencies, significant weaknesses, are the exact language from FAR Clause 15.506, which is a section of the Federal Acquisition Regulation that governs post-award debriefs. Contracting officers are required to be able to speak to them. When you use that language, they know you know your rights, and they get more forthcoming. Second question, can you clarify whether the awardee's proposal received any strengths that ours didn't? And in which evaluation factors? That question tells you where you were beaten on substance versus where you're beaten on price. 90% of the time, you were beaten on substance. Fix the substance and you win the next one. I built DeployReady because I got tired of watching small businesses lose bids to the 5 things I just walked through. None of them are about capability. All of them are about knowing the game. DeployReady's analyzer reads every solicitation you upload and flags all 5 of these before you submit. FAR clause acknowledgments, CLIN structure gaps, past performance fit, key personnel misalignment, section L versus section M mapping. It doesn't write your proposal for you. It tells you what the evaluator is going to look for and where your gaps are, so you can fix them before it costs you the award. If you want to try it, the link is in the description. There's a free tier that lets you run one solicitation end to end so you can see whether it catches the stuff you'd miss. But even if you never touched DeployReady, use these 5-point checklists from this video. Costs you nothing, and it will keep you from losing the next contract for a reason that isn't your capability. In the next video, I'm going to walk through the exact trap in section L subsection 6 that throws out 60% of small business proposals before evaluation even starts. If you want to see that one, hit subscribe and I'll drop it next week. Comment below what the reason you think cost your last bid. I read everyone and I'll respond. Thanks for watching. See you next time.